Welcome to Achieve Wealth through value-add real estate investing. This is the show where the guru hype is banned and you get direct insights from commercial real estate operators. If you're a passive investor, this show can help you better understand investment opportunities. And if you're an active investor, the lessons from each episode can help you to become more effective in your own deals. Now, here's your host, investor and author, James Kandasamy.
Hi, this is James Kandasamy. Thank you for listening to this podcast. I appreciate you. I know I provide a lot of value through this podcast, and I want you to share it with your friends, with your families, and anybody else that you know that kind of benefit from listening to this kind of content. Go and share it through Facebook, through LinkedIn, through Twitter, through Instagram, or any other channels that you want to share it, because sharing is caring. Thank you. Let's go on with the show.
Hey audience and listeners, this is James Kandasamy from Achieve Wealth through Value-Add Real Estate Investing. Today I have Andrew Cordle, who is Money is CEO, right? He's a real estate marvel, and he have done almost like 1,000 transactions in real estate, and now focusing a lot more on commercial buildings. And his target market is more Utah, Idaho, and Georgia right now. Hey Andrew, welcome to the show.
Hey, James, how are you, man? Thanks for having me on the show, buddy.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I know we met when we did a recording of my show on your show, which is Money Is. And I was super impressed with the whole setup and the vision that you guys have on Money Is, which is really, really the next level of, I would say interview, right? And I was super impressed, and I'm happy for that. And thanks for having me on the show. And I'm just stoked to have you on my show and go deep into you, because I really want to. You're a very amazing person, and I want to really tap into your brain and your mindset and see how can our audience and listeners learn from you as well. So let's get started. So talk about Money Is show. I mean, you interviewed like big guys like Grant Cardone, Kevin O'Leary, or Gary Vee, right? These are the big guys, the big guns, right? Tell us about the show and tell us about some of the experiences that you had interviewing these big guys.
When I started the Money Is show, I just had an idea. I had taught so long about money and the topic of money and kind of how the game of money is played. And one of the things that I realized quickly by teaching it so much was that there was just a lack of understanding why people wanted money. When you're teaching it, and I thought every single week, people would think they wanted money because they wanted a car, they wanted they wanted a new house, or this vacation, or whatever it was. And all those things are good, of course, but the issue is it's not big enough to keep you driving, because in business things get tough all the time. I mean, literally yesterday, I got straight up just kicked right in the teeth, with business that I didn't see coming anywhere. So really having that answer of what does money mean to you, and really clearly defining that, I think is super important for people, which is how I started the Money Is show. Was I wanted to know what money means to different people, and there's no right or wrong answer there, but it just can't be, materialistic things, right? So that's why I started the show Money Is. And then I've just been fortunate enough to interview, like you said, Gary Vaynerchuk, Grant Cardone, Kevin O'Leary from Shark Tank, Dean Graziosi, Josh Altman from his TV show. I've interviewed a bunch of people from HGTV, A&E, all those shows. And it's been really fun, man. I interviewed you, of course, James, at the office. That's what you were talking about. And just meeting with successful people that have created success in their field, whatever that is, and then ask them what money means to them. So it's been a great experience for sure.
So let's go back into your Money Is show and talking to all these big guys, or even the HGTV guys, even sure. People like me, right? I'm sure there's a lot of successful guys like me. So what's your conclusion until now? What is money?
Well, first of all, I think money, now I've done this show so many times. It's amazing how many different answers you get, from different people. But for me, I'll put it in my terminology of what I think money is. The word that I always use for money is, I think money is influence. And that's the word that I always go with when I talk about, when people ask me, what does money mean to me? I've had a unique, again, awesome, kind of career that I have. But, I sit down with large CEOs of $100 million companies and ask all these questions. I learn constantly from them. But to me, money is influence. It just means that, money is kind of funny when you think about it. The same dollar, like me and you could have literally, in our passings of life, have literally touched the same money. We could have literally touched the same dollar, not even knowing each other, but we could have touched the same dollar. Just because money is always in movement. When you take that dollar bill, it's constantly in movement somewhere, whether I'm buying this ink pen right here or whatever it is, money is always flowing, which is a huge secret of money. And to me, when you get into, you talk about money again, is like, not only do me and you have touched the same dollar bill, that same dollar could be used for good in the world, or it could be used for bad in the world. The same dollar, which is, if you think about this for a second, where it kind of almost gets creepy. Like, take a $100 bill, for example. That $100 bill one time might have been used to pay a power bill. That same $100 bill might have been used with because they went to somebody else, and maybe they used it to buy their kids school supplies to go back to school. That same $100 bill then also could have went to feed orphans at a charity. And also that same $100 bill could have been used to buy drugs and cocaine. And that same $100 bill could have also been used to hire a hitman to kill someone. I mean, but it's the same actual, $100 bill. But what you see is that it was used for good or it was used for evil, and it's up to us of how we use that money there. And so for me, I always think that money is influence. And my job as a person is to make sure I use money to influence the right way, that I'm using it to do the right things with and not, the wrong things with. So my answer is always money is influence, basically.
Got it. So that's a really good answer. So from all your interview that you have done until now, right? I mean, I don't know, maybe 100 of people, right? Was there something that where you, after all this interview, where you concluded what money is not, from talking to all these successful people?
Sure. I'd probably tell you that money is not easy to get. I'd probably give you that answer. Okay. Money is not easy to get. A lot of people want it. You think of America, we have 300 and close to 50 million people in America here. Probably the greatest country right now to be able to create wealth. And the majority of people still don't have it. Like, the majority of people don't have it. So just understand that if you're listening right now or watching and you're trying to create wealth, I'll be honest with you, money is not super easy to get. It takes the right ingredients. Maybe a better definition I could say is, I always say that, kind of money is a game. And in any game that you play, you have to know the rules of that game. And if you don't know the rules of the game, well, it makes it very difficult for you to ever win, because you're not playing by the rules of the game. And so I would tell you what money is not. Money is not easy to get because most people just don't know the rules of the game.
So let's go into some rules that, you can talk about from your side, right? What do you think? I mean, because you have interviewed a lot of people and it's very intense discussion about money, right? And I'm sure a lot of them have said that this is how I got it, this is how I think about it and all that. But let's just look at like top, three, what are the rules to get money?
Yeah. So, what I always say is that, first of all, to understand money, the number one rule of money, if you want to create wealth in your life, is that money must always be in movement. I just refer to it as money movement. And it means that if you take, two different types of people here, what I call maybe like one side I refer to as a contributor and one side as a creator of money. So you have a contributor of money and a creator of money. And for lack of better terms, the contributor is someone who's always working a job and can never just get ahead, always paycheck by paycheck. And then the creator is someone, let's say, that has defined and they're wealthy now. If you look at one of the big differences between those two different kind of categories there, is that contributors never ever move their money. They're trying to play the hold on to it game, and they're trying to hold it as long as possible, as tight as possible. Their whole approach to money is, let me live below my means. Let me save my money up every last penny of I can get. Let me not enjoy life, if you will, do the things that I really maybe want to do, or, take my family on vacation. And let me put it in a 401k. I'll save it over there. I'll stuff it away. And hopefully one day when I retire, it'll all work out. And they call that I call that the contributor side. And then you have the creator side. And the creators are the one that create wealth. They create money. They own businesses. They're entrepreneurs. They're investors, and they're always creating money for lack of better words. And what I mean by that is, if you look at those two differences, the creators, those that are wealthy, are always moving money. I'm going to use you here for the example, James. When people invest with you and with an apartment building, those people are moving money. That's what's taking place. And when money moves, right? So they have this money in whatever account they have it in. They move that money. They don't hold on to it. They don't try to store it under their mattress or in a CD or checking account. When they move the money, and let's say they move it to your apartment building that you're going to develop there, that money then creates more money. So when money is moved into the right categories, it allows for that money to create more money. If that same person, you take two people side by side, one person, they say they each have $100,000 to do. One person invests with you $100,000 and they move that money and it creates more money. The other person holds on to the money and refuses to move it. Well, one begins to actually create money and one begins to only contribute to money. And so the number one rule of money that I always talk about between these two different categories, and if you just look at it across the board, blue collar, hardworking, salt of the earth, paycheck by paycheck people and wealthy people, what is the big difference? Blue collar, hardworking, which is my own family, by the way, so how I grew up, we never moved money. We never would go and invest with apartments or invest in a deal because it was all about holding on to that money. Where if you look at wealthy people, anytime you get around wealthy people, you talk about on the show, when I'm on the show, every conversation is about like, where's your money going? And they're always putting it somewhere. They're never saying, oh, well, lately what I've been doing is sitting on it and burying it. Like, no one says that answer. Every single person I interview is talking to me about how they move that money. So, you're talking about the game of money. Defining the first rule of money would be that money is going to have to move, or you're going to forever be stuck on the contribution side of it. And one more point on this that I think is funny is that when you refuse to move money, money will move with or without you. And so some people will get stuck in this world of like saying, well, I'm just going to hold my money. The thing about it is money moves with or without your permission, really. It's why a person gets paid a paycheck. And let's just say for illustration purposes, the paycheck goes into a bucket, a checking account, but it goes in this checking account, a bucket, and they're trying to hold this bucket really, really tight. But by the end of the month or the end of the week or 2 weeks, whatever it is, all that money, they look back in the bucket and that money is gone and it's somewhere else. And then they got to go back to work to do it, to put money back in the bucket and go back to work. And every time they put money in the bucket, it goes away. And while the whole time, what they're trying to do is hold on to all of it. But even when they're trying to hold on to it, it still disappears. And that's because if you look at it, going back to the creator side, where does this money go? Okay. So here's this contributor. They get a paycheck, and they pay the first bill, if you will. Where is that money going to? Well, normally their first bill is to maybe their mortgage or to the rent. Okay. So then the question becomes, well, who owns all those rental properties, apartments, buildings like yourself, or mortgages? Well, creators, wealthy individuals, hold those properties. So therefore, the money is flowing from a contributor immediately to a creator on their very first step. Okay, and then they pay their car payment. Well, who do you think owns all these banks that they get all these loans from? A wealthy individual creators own those things. And then it goes to groceries and cell phone bills, and you just start going to the line. Their money is moving. It's just moving to the other side. So money always is moving, whether you want it to or not. The trick to money is you have to play the game of money movement. And if you refuse to play that game, there's not much I can help you with, because that bucket is going to be constantly be empty, and you're hoping to, at the end of your life, when you retire, there's enough to live off of. And that philosophy I have nothing to really do with at all. My philosophy is, let's learn how to create money. Let's learn how to invest in apartment. I don't have to be the one that knows apartments, James, but I have to be the one that's willing to put my money into a deal or a building or whatever it may be, or a business, right? It doesn't have to be real estate. It could be a business or whatever it is. I gotta be willing to move my money. And wealthy people are always moving their money. They will always tell you where they're moving it. If you ask a kind of a paycheck by paycheck person, and again, this is not making fun of either side of it. I'm just trying to use for illustration the points, and I'm gonna use my own family here. You know, my mom and dad were just school teachers and they didn't have a lot of money. If I'd have asked them, hey, you know, where are you guys moving your money to? Like, where are you investing in? Their answer was always the same. Oh, I'm putting it in a savings or my retirement one day. And you know, that game never plays out that way. It's always the other side that works, the moving it to investment side. So that's the first rule, if you will.
Yeah, I mean, just before you go to the second rule. So, I mean, yeah, I was at a corporate working W-2 job for almost 22 years. And I mean, I don't know whether I mentioned this to you when we met. I saw Robert Kiyosaki's book on real estate, which changed a lot of people's life, you know, after reading it first time. But when I was working on a W-2, I read his book, I think after like 8 years working, and I didn't want to read it because after a few pages, I said, this guy is some businessman who is trying to, you know, do something that is not possible. And I rather just work, right? Kind of thing. So it's you just do not know until, you know, later part of your life. And when you're busy working, you're just busy working, right? Your network didn't expand, your knowledge didn't expand. You just want to make money and spend it, and you want to have a life with the family, and that's it, right? So until I start reading books about mindset and how you change things and thinking big, right? Like Magic of Thinking. That's one of the first book that changed my mind. And later on, I read Robert Kiyosaki book. Then it makes a lot more sense, right? But in the beginning, it did not, right? So how do you think mindset focuses? How does mindset relates to the way money flows? Because that's important, right? If you don't have that mindset, you can't really move money, right? So,
yeah, I mean, you know, the funny thing about this, James, is, you know, I like I said, I come from blue collar. I'm very, very logical thinker. I mean, I'm a teacher by nature, so I'm very logical in how I, you know, teach and explain stuff. And, you know, when I was teaching, I traveled the world, right? I've spoken on stages in 26 different countries around the world, and 42 of the states in America. I've spoken on events and about money. And it was funny because at first I would try to stay away from the mindset side of money, because I was like, well, you know, that's all pie in the sky mindset, you know, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, you got to think smart, whatever. But here's how you go, you know, make money. And unfortunately, it was so wrong. I mean, it was 100% wrong. The truth of the matter is, it is 100%. You first have to fix that mindset, because if you don't fix the mindset of how you view money and how you enjoy money, how you appreciate money, how you use money, there's no way that me or anybody else could ever show you how to create wealth, because no matter what we share with you and even show you, your mindset will still start trying to justify why that won't work. And, you know, not to call out any listeners right now, but those that listen to podcasts, my podcast, whatever it is, and they sit on the podcast or listen or watch, and they start really trying to explain to themselves why that's not accurate. Like, dude, that's the exact person I'm talking about, because their mind is always trying to explain and justify why that's not true. And the whole time they're not wealthy, but they're trying to tell someone who is wealthy why that process is wrong. It's the exact person that you mainly referring to. So to answer your question in one maybe a definition, I would say that mindset is 100% the first thing that someone has to do to create wealth is change their mindset. Without that, it's all for naught.
Yeah, that's a very important, right? So once you have the mindset, once you open to the money, that, you know, the money can come to you, and you put in between of that transaction, right? So I think I read a book, I can't remember which book was it. They said the whole world flows on, you know, energy, right? And money is part of that energy. And you have to position yourself in between that energy on the flow so that you can tap into it. If you don't tap into it, you're just going to not nothing's going to work for you. Right. So I think it's important for you to be tapping into that money flow and, that's what you mentioned, right? So some people do not want to invest. They just want to put the money under the pillow, right? And they say we are too scared to invest. The economy is collapsing, it's COVID. And so then your money is not going to make money. In fact, you're losing money because inflation is eating up your money, right? So, and also, how do you think the money flow with the risk? Because, you can put a money into a CD and still make it grow at 0.02%, or you can take some chance and put into an apartment syndication, which makes 15 to 20%, return, right? So it depends on the risk that you take too, right? And people have asked me, hey, is this a guaranteed return? I said, there's nothing guaranteed except for the CD you put in. You want to put in the CD, you can get 0.02%, but this is investment. Nothing is guaranteed, but you have to invest to make the money, right? So what do you think about the risk level versus the money flow kind of thing?
Yeah, it's a great topic here. The thing about it is, I use illustration all the time in teaching, is that, you use the word that money will die, if you will, if it doesn't move. And that's because of inflation and taxes. So here's the point, is that you could sit here and tell me that I'm wrong, and that, or a viewer could, right? That money does not have to move and flow. You could tell that all you want to. And then you could go play the game of holding on to it and try to do nothing with it forever. But at the end of the day, just understand that your money is dying, not growing. Even if your CD is paying you 1.2%, or even if your 401k on average is making you 5%. And just, on average from 2008 to 18, the average 401k return was 3.5% over those 10 years. So sometimes people get confused and think, well, my 401k is making me 9%. And they're referring to the best year that it had. They're not taking into account that over that 10-year period, they actually made 3.5%. And that was a study done by Vanguard, by the way. And so I use this comparison a lot. I'll say, what is another word for money? Like, what if you gave another word for the word money, like an older word that described money, or that they used to use as money? What would another word be, James, that people used to use for the word money?
I don't know. I mean, well, I mentioned that money is for karma, right? So, or you mean some old terms that they use for money?
Yeah, like what's another word for money, basically?
I don't know. That's a tricky question. Can be anything, right? So.
No. I guess what I'm saying is like not a hypothetical one. Like the word I'm looking for is currency.
Yeah, currency. Yeah,
money,
I was thinking
right?
Currency.
Currency, yes. Right? Like fiat, right?
Yeah.
So understand this: money comes from the word currency, because that's what the word money came from. The money comes from the word currency. Then the question is, okay, well, then what does the word currency come from? The word currency comes from the word called current. So the word current is what created the word currency, and currency created the word money. Well, in currents, right? So I had a beach house in Florida. For there to be a current in that water, right? If there was going to be a current in the water, the only way that a current exists in water is that the water has to be what?
Have to be flowing, right?
It's got to be moving. It's got to be flowing. If the water is not flowing or moving, there is no current. If there's no current, there's no currency, no money. And if you understand, what made me think about this was you were talking about money that dies. So for there to be a current in the ocean, the water's got to be moving, okay? Well, what happens if the water doesn't move? Let's say, go to another example where there is no movement at all of water. There is no current. There is no flow that's coming in. What do we call that pile of water? Well, you could call it a swamp. You could call it the Dead Sea, or the Salt Lake, if you want to, meaning it is so contaminated that things die. Literally, the name of it is the Dead Sea, because water is not moving there. It's the same thing with money. When you refuse to move money, okay, which is the very definition where it came from, was the word of current. If you refuse to move money, then your money's going to die, just like things die when water does not move and it gets stale, and it gets you can get sick by drinking stale, dead water. Like, if you think about like those TV shows like Naked and Afraid or whatever they do on Discovery Channel, and you see those people in the desert that haven't drank water in 2 days, and they come across a little puddle, like a mud puddle, where animals have been like bathing in, and they'll run to it to drink out of it, even though they know that they're going to get sick from doing it because that water is so contaminated. That's what happens with money, is that we know that, truth be told, our plan is not working to financially take care of our family and create a legacy for our family financially. But we just keep drinking out that same dead water over and over again because we're so desperate to get it. So if you don't move money, money will die. And going back one more point here, and then money will die, is people think, well, I'm investing in my 401k at 3.5%, 5%, whatever it is, or I'm investing in my CD. But when you take into consideration two things, the two killers of money, which are taxes and inflation, what's really happening is you're not actually making money, you're actually losing money. Because by the time you pay taxes and all that money, well, first taxes and all of it, and you add inflation to all that money, what you're gonna realize is you're not really making anything. You're actually dying day by day. Your money's dying. Same reason why hiding money under your mattress is no good, because if a person would have hit $1,000 on their mattress in 1950, thinking, my God, I've got $1,000. In 1950, that was a decent amount of money. But 2020, that's like, so what? It's $1,000. Like, what is that going to do for you right now? That's because that money has died, lost value because of inflation and taxes. So those are two things you got to watch out for. If you refuse to move money, make sure you just count to affect taxes and inflation, and your math will start not working out as good as you thought it was.
Got it. So before we go to further rules of the money, right? I just want to, how do you relate the money to real estate, and how did real estate impact your life with regards to money? And do you think real estate is the only way to get money?
Yeah. So a couple of questions there. So I started in real estate. Kind of my birth of money was in real estate. Single family homes is where I started at. And so I'm obviously very near and dear to real estate because where I created my wealth from. If you ask me, even to this day, I'm not a huge investor in the stock market. I'm not against it. I do have money in certain things in the stock market. I do not own mutual funds, just putting it out there. I don't own mutual funds. I have a very, more capital advanced, where I'm looking for certain things to go high up in value. And there's risk, of course, in that. So, for me, if you ask me, how do I feel about money in real estate? In my opinion, I still believe that real estate is the best investment that people can ever make, because even in a down economy, it doesn't matter. Again, I'm gonna lean on you here, but even if you have apartment buildings and you have all these apartment buildings and the economy goes down, okay, well, if the economy is going to go down where it's affecting everybody, like the whole economy, you still have a hard asset. Meaning you still have a physical thing that you have right there, where if you lose that in a stock market, that's it. You don't have it anymore. Like you had X amount of shares and now you don't have X amount of shares because the money has gone down in value. So to me, real estate is still the best investment that I enjoy making. I think second from in real estate is just businesses. I love to invest in businesses. And sometimes when you're really investing in real estate at a higher level, you are really investing kind of in a business. Even, again, I'm trying to use what they're really investing a lot of times is they're investing in James. And they're saying, do I think James has the right structure in place and the right staff in place and the right team in place to acquire this property, get the funding for the property, fix the property, create the value in the property, the value add, and then create that, equity / cash flow. So a lot of times I think the best investment is real estate and business, and then probably stock is how I would play the game. I love to invest in businesses at this point. I think investing in businesses are very, very fun. And that business, again, could be directly tied to real estate, actually.
Got it. So let's go into the other rules that you think, let's go into the other rules of the money. So I think first was creating, where we talk about the contributor versus the creator, right? So let's go to the other rules that you think will be really good information for our audience.
Yeah. So go back here for a second. The first rule is that money has to move. Without that rule, there's no way to actually create anything, because that's where money is created from, is from the movement of money. The second big concept, and there's kind of three rules in this one, is to be wealthy. If you study wealthy people, which I've had a unique ability to do, there's three things there. Wealthy people know how to create money. they know how to keep money, and they know how to protect money. If you find any wealthy person out there that has legitimate wealth, they're doing something where they are creating money. Now, that could be investing in real estate, that could be investing in businesses, that could be owning real estate, owning businesses, but they're doing something that is creating them money, or capital, if you will. And the only way to create money is by moving it, which is the first rule. So number one, wealthy people are constantly in the game of moving it and creating it. Number two, they're very, very good at keeping what they make. And this is one of the biggest differences between the wealthy and the contributors, is that wealthy people know how to make all this money, and then they know how to keep this money. And maybe this is not a great example for political side of things, but it's a great example of money side of things. And that is, just recently, I was watching the debates, and they were the news was someone that they kind of released Donald Trump's tax returns. And this is not if you're for or against them, but when they released his tax returns, it was shown that he only paid like $750 of federal income tax or whatever, maybe. And I don't even know if it's true or not. I'm saying that's what they said, right? And in the debate, they try to kind of attack him with it. And the point is, like, if you understood what was really happening there, here's a guy that was able to create massive amount of wealth that year, but then somehow pay way less than a school teacher would pay in that federal taxes right there. And it's because there's so many tax advantages that the wealthy understand, that the regular contributor either A, never has heard of before, or B, they don't know how to actually do it. Like they don't understand the concept of it, right? And so we could hate him for, paying less than a school teacher, but it's not just him. If you went to every single wealthy person out there, go to Jeff Bezos. You think, why is it that Amazon is paying $0 in federal? Why is Netflix paying no money in federal income tax? It's because the wealthy know certain rules of money that the regular maybe individual just doesn't understand about it, and is how to keep it. So, big picture here, just kind of going through some of them, and there's lots of different categories, everything from trust and all kinds of stuff. But, getting into some basic levels, to me, one of the best things that I do to keep my money is what's called a solo Roth. So this is not your typical Roth. This was referred to as a solo Roth or solo 401k. And I use my money in there all the time. And I will literally, when you get into playing that game right there, I can put, I'm 38, so I can put up to, I think it's $58,000 a year contributions into my solo Roth, basically, per year.
So is that the same as solo 401k? A solo Roth is the same as solo 401k?
Yeah, okay. Same thing. It's just, I never use the 401k side. I only use the Roth side of it. So therefore, I just put a solo Roth, because, without going in too depth here, it's like you could either, if you're going to play the game of money movement, okay? So this I described in class. If you're going to play the game of money movement, okay? And we're going to take this, however much it is, $100,000, and we're going to go invest, and we're going to go move this money over and over and over for the next 30, 40 years. We're going to just keep investing it. The question becomes, would I rather pay taxes up front on $100,000, or would I rather in 20 years turn that $100,000 into $3 million and then pay taxes on $3 million? Because that number is not the same anymore. It's the same $100,000 that started, but on one time I made $3 million, another one, and I got to pay no taxes on the $3 million, or I got to pay taxes on the $3 million. So for me, I only play the Roth game because I'm always moving my money, constantly moving my money. And one of the cool things as you get into solo Roth is they have a thing where you can invest in private like equity businesses. And if you actually study it, look it up, the number one investments of the wealthy are these private equity firms. And you could go, if your listeners are listening, you want to go study some wealthy people that have used what I'm telling you right now, you can go study the owner of LinkedIn or Mitt Romney. And there's a bunch of other ones out there where they have actually documented their stories of how they use these loopholes to make an insane amount of money and then pay nothing in taxes. Let me prove my point here for a second. This was like in 2012, Mitt Romney had over $100 million inside of his Roth accounts. Well, how the heck do you get $100 million inside of Roth accounts when the average contributor person thinks, well, the most you can contribute by law is, $5,500 or $6,000 per year. Well, then how did you go from $6,000 a year of contributions to $100 million? And it's what I'm explaining to you right now is that once the money's in there, they're going to move the money constantly and they're only going to do it on the Roth side, because the Roth side will allow them to invest, move that money into businesses, private equity firms, real estate, apartment buildings, etc., make that money back and pay nothing in taxes for it. And then as soon as they get it back, let's say, make up numbers here, they invested $100,000, let's say they got back $200,000, whatever the number is. When they get that $200,000 back, number one, they don't pay anything in taxes. And number two, guess what they do with it? As soon as they get it back in the account, guess what they do with it? Send it right back out. They got to move it again. Because when that
invest again, right?
Yeah, they have to, because that's how they make money. That's how wealthy people make money, is their money is always out to work, basically. It's like, there's two ways to make money. Either you work or your money works. And wealthy people, their money always works. And the blue collar contributors, they always work, right? So I'm a big component on the solo Roth side of it. One of the great investments out there, mine is buying shares of companies, which if you study Mitt Romney, that's what he was doing. He was a lot of times buying shares of his buddy's company that was getting started, a new company, it had no value, and they'll invest and buy shares of that company. And who they're really investing in is the owner, because they believe that that guy, girl, who's running it is going to explode this company. Well, another thing is what's called the ROBS, R-O-B-S. So inside of a solo Roth, you can do what's called a ROBS, R-O-B-S. And I've had great success with the ROBS, because with the ROBS is basically where I'm going to take my money and I'm going to invest my money in my own company, and I'm going to buy 100% of all the shares of my company. Okay. So here's my solo Roth on one side. My money is tax-free in that account. Okay. So I'm going to invest my money, whatever amount it is, into my company over here, and I'm going to buy 100% of all the shares. Well, when I do that, now I own my company. Say it's a C corporation, by the way. So my company, is paying, my salary and car and expenses and so forth, right, that I have. At the end of the year, let's say that I have, I paid all my bills and expenses and et cetera. And I've made, $5 million in my company. Well, I can pay that money back out to my own freaking solo Roth, called a ROBS in this example. And so I could take that, $5 million and not pay back, but pay the investment back into my Roth, because that's who owns the shares. So I'm distributing the money to the shareholders at the end of the year. Well, now all of a sudden my retirement account has $5 million tax-free, it just got into my retirement account, all tax-free. These are the games that there's other games, but these are the games that the wealthy are playing at a very, very high level.
So do you think they can invest into a syndication with the solo Roth?
Yeah, 100%. That's one of the main investments people make. Now, Mitt Romney, one of the investments he was making was into apartment buildings, into a syndication, where they were putting money into a syndication. And for, at that level with him, because they have so much money, it might have been only 5, friends doing it. But it doesn't matter if it's 5 or 500 or 5,000, it's irrelevant. But yeah, you can invest with a solo Roth into a syndication all day long, no problem.
And when are you able to take out this money? Is it like when you're like 60 and above?
You said when can you withdraw the money?
Yeah, what age can you withdraw the money tax-free kind of thing? Because all this is a tax avoiding vehicle, right? You don't pay tax at all.
Yeah, you pay no tax on any of this money. So the age for a Roth is 59 and a half years old. So at 59 and a half, you can withdraw that money out tax-free as much as you want to, and live on it for the rest of your life, spend it however you want to, buy a boat with it, it's irrelevant. But where people get confused at is they think, well, yeah, but I'm only 38 right now. So what am I gonna not make any money until I'm 59 and a half? And again, it goes back to, no, man, you're just missing all the rules of the game. So one of the accounts that I set up was a thing called the nickname is called a golden Roth. So a golden Roth is basically a Roth account that has been passed down to me from somebody. It doesn't even matter who, it's irrelevant. But a golden Roth has been passed down to me. So when you are given a golden Roth, what happens is that Roth, because it's a golden Roth, takes away the age limit of when you can withdraw that money. So if I got my golden Roth when I was 30 years old. So I inherited this Roth with very, very little money in it, but that was irrelevant to me because I know how to create money. That's money movement. So, but once I had what's called a golden Roth, I could go do that exact same deal, bring that money right back to my, invest in an apartment syndication, whatever it may be, a fix and flip, doesn't matter. Bring that money back to my inherited Roth, golden Roth. And the very next day at 30 years old, withdraw that money, all whatever, maybe I made $73,000. Withdraw $73,000. It goes in my golden Roth tax-free. I pay no taxes on it. The very next day I call my custodian and withdraw that money into my personal checking account. And I pay no taxes on that $73,000 either. So when I'm now 38 years old and I have a golden Roth that anytime I want to, I can go withdraw as much as I want to. So I could withdraw all of it if I wanted to and pay nothing in taxes. So, as you set up your system, your structure of taxes, it takes time, but as you get deeper into it and as you understand the game more, my most active account is probably my solo Roth, investing in businesses and so forth. And I can withdraw that money when I'm 59 and a half. However, I've also set up a golden Roth, which means now, let's say I want to make $1 million a year to live off of, that golden Roth, I'll invest money, make my $1 million off of it. I buy shares of stock of companies that I want to, like private companies that maybe you would have, or my buddy would own, or a friend of mine would own, right? I will buy those shares and get dividends off of all that money. And I'll live off of that money. And my solo Roth is exploding for my retirement, but also my legacy that I'm trying to build for my family as I build this thing out.
Yeah, that's amazing. I mean, what you told me is something that I didn't even know that existed. I mean, I know solo 401k, we know self-directed IRA. This is like access. Is there anything else that you want to share with our audience that not well known?
Yeah, I mean, there's other things that everybody's got to look at because everybody's different. So I'm not, by no means am I anybody's tax advisor, but I give you some ideas that you could go look at and kind of study. One of them that I love is the charity donation side, which I kind of talked to you a little bit about as well at my office, which is where for a person that is in business, has money, and they're going to have this massive tax bill due at a certain time, they're allowed to donate. In my example, I donate art to charity, like a 501c3. It's not to a buddy or something, but a 501c3. And they can donate that art and get the value of that art given to them. So for example, what I do is I have a certain artist that I buy his art. He releases a new piece. You can buy it. I'm a pre-customer, so I buy it at a certain price, very, very cheap, basically, because I'm one of the first ones that will buy it. And then maybe he only sells 500 of those pieces. Well, by the time they get, maybe I paid, I'm gonna make a number here. Maybe I paid $5,000 for this piece of art. And, within a year or 2 years, whatever it is, that piece of art right now is worth $150,000. Okay. So I've only paid $5,000 for it, but it's worth $150,000 now, and not worth it because I just say it is. I'll go get a appraisal and or a, replacement value from the artist. So that's how I normally do it, is a replacement value. So I go get a replacement value or a appraisal on it. And then I'll go donate that piece of art. Well, I'm only in it for $5,000. So if I donate it, and let's say at that time it's worth $150,000, then I get a tax credit of $150,000 added to my taxes as a tax deduction for that donation. So at my house, at my office, I have art everywhere. It's beautiful. Matter of fact, the piece behind me right now, you probably see it in the screen, is a massive picture of New York City. And I think this piece is like, it's probably 15 feet long and like 4 feet tall or something. You can't see it, there's a piece over here and a piece over there. They're all throughout my house. They're all throughout my office. And I buy them, I use them. I enjoy them while they're going up in value. and then I'll go donate it. This piece behind me, I can tell you, I paid $10,000 for that piece. The piece over there, I paid $4,000 for, and then I'll go donate them. So you're only allowed to donate, though, just so you know, up to 40% of your taxes. So if you donate over that, they'll roll that into the next year. So this is an easy game that wealthy. If you ever seen, sometimes you go to like a library or different things and you see like art on the wall and it says donated by such and such, family or such and such person. And I've always thought before I was wealthy, I was thinking, oh man, what a nice person they are to donate art to the library. And it's like, no, bro. They donated that because they were getting all these tax write-offs for that piece of art. And so that's the easy one that I do every single year. I do that one where I donate art to the maximum ability. 40% of my tax is that I owe. I donate all of that away. So I get $10,000. I'll probably get $200,000 off that piece of art behind me for a $10,000 investment. And then one more that I'll just give you that I use a lot is what's called the Augusta rule. And again, I'm not a tax advisor, so go study, if you're listening, go study it yourself. But Augusta rule is a really cool one where you can actually rent your house out. Now there has to be, you got to meet the qualifications to go do this. And what I mean by that is I can actually pay myself, my company can actually rent my house and pay me for that money as a tax deduction that I can write off in my company for renting my house out for like a company party or a company get together, or if I'm gonna have a company dinner. There's lots of things where, there's always, you can write off part of your house for this or that, but there's another level called the Augusta rule that a lot of people are qualified for, that you should look into if you're in business, that you could immediately save money right away if you
How do you spell
certain
that?
things.
Augusta?
Augusta, like the city of Georgia,
Okay.
Augusta, Georgia, the golf town. It's called the Augusta rule. And that's a cool way where you can literally pay your house, pay a payment to your house or rent your house and use it for your business as on top of the other expenses as well. And then another one a lot of people miss out on is paying their children. That's one that you can easily do. And there's a certain limit every year that you're allowed to pay your children. And that's tax deductible. So you can pay your children. They have to do, audit work for you. It can't be, fraud, but you can hire your children and pay them. And again, write that off in your, from your company as well. So those are like three, like not super easy ones, but three that can be used quite a bit. The art one is my favorite one. I maximize that one every single year. The Augusta rule I use every single year. And then you have the hiring your children. I don't use that one yet because I don't have children yet, but as soon as I do, I would immediately hire my children for something, I promise.
Got it. Can you name, say that?
I was gonna say, all this to go back is simply means that, remember, wealthy people create money and they know how to keep money. If you think about it, like on this, podcast right here, with kind of like no, like I don't have any notes laying around. Like I don't have anything. Like we're talking about what we're going to talk about, and we said let's talk about money. But my point is, like, think about just this podcast, how much like knowledge and information I just explained on taxes for people, without even attempting to actually go into some deep stuff, because I'll need a whiteboard and everything else. But that's what I'm trying to explain to you when I say the game of money. The game of money that the wealthy play, the creators, is that they know how to create it, but then they know how to keep it. Because if me and you both invest $100,000, and let's just say we both make $100,000, right? You get $100,000 and I get $100,000. What happens to the normal person is their next objective is to pay nothing in taxes. So this is where small businesses get stuck at. What they want to do is, I made $100,000 and I don't want to pay taxes. So if I don't want to pay taxes on $100,000 and I'm in business, what do business owners do? They go spend that money. They go spend that money anywhere they can, because they're like, well, I'd rather have a new truck or I'm going to pay taxes. Well, I'd rather have a new this or a new that, or whatever it is that they're buying. So what happens, they're playing what's called the deduction game. And I'm not against it, but they're missing the point. Is that what happens is they invested $100,000 or in their business or whatever it is. They made $100,000. Their next move is to actually go spend $100,000 so that they can go to their CPA, and their CPA at the end of the year says, oh, well, look at that. You don't owe anything in taxes. And they think, oh my God, I'm a genius. I don't pay anything in taxes. But how much is in their bank account? Zero. Nothing is in your bank account anymore. So therefore, how much did you really make? Well, you made zero because you made 100, but you spent 100. Therefore, you made zero. The wealthy know how to use in a solo Roth and some of these other things I was talking about. Make 100,000 and keep 100,000. Therefore, if I make 100, invest 100, and make 100, and I keep 100, how much do I have? Well, I have 200. How much does the other person have? Zero. So who really is making money here? It's very simple to understand. You know what I mean? When you get down to it, one side is making money, one side is not.
Yeah, it's very interesting. I mean, this is so much of information that you have given me and the audience. I mean, it's like, wow, you can do that, right? So, I mean, I think that's a powerful thing about, capitalism, right? It does allow you to do things the right way. All these are legal, right? There's no something. Yeah, it's all the, I mean, as I always talk to my investors, the tax code is meant to incentivize real estate investors because there's so much of incentive. And there's a reason why government did it. I mean, the government is not stupid, right? They basically did that so that, because they don't own the houses in the country, right?
Right.
If you go to like a third world country, a lot of governments own the houses, right? They give housing to the people. So they don't have this kind of law, right? So, but here, because the government is not taking care of the houses, they gave a series of incentive in their tax code. And the people who work on that tax code and capitalize on that, like real estate investors, they do gain from that, right? And I'm sure the reason why they have this solo Roth and all that, they want to incentivize someone to invest in businesses, right? Because if you don't have that, what's the motivation, right? I mean, between investing somewhere else, right? But they created all this to, invest in business. They want more business-friendly economy, which is, the backbone of capitalism, right? So all these were done for a reason. And I think the wealthy or the one who knows how to take advantage of all these reasons, it's not a loophole, it's just incentive, right? If they able to use the incentive, then they gain, right? And I think that's how you play the game, I guess. That's what I'm saying, right? So.
Yeah, I mean, people call it a loophole, right? People always say, oh, it's a loophole. It's not a loophole. It's the same laws that you're using on your tax deductions at H&R Block. I mean, it's the same. Do you call what you're doing a loophole? You know what I mean? Like the person who, is trying to say that the wealthy person is wrong for taking these loopholes. They did the same. They'll take as many loopholes as they can as well. Like, if you don't want to, then take no deductions at all from your taxes and give the government all your money if you want to. But it's funny because the people that, say it's a loophole, or the same people that use the same types of, or at least the same concept on their side. What I always say though is that when it comes to the government side of it, you got to remember this. The rules of money were created by the wealthy, for the wealthy, and passed by the wealthy. So the wealthy are the ones who create the rules of money and how it works and operates. And they're passed by the government because that's how lobbying works. So lobbyists pass these big, like all these different tax laws that are happening. They pass these laws through lobbyists, and who votes on them? Okay, Congress and senators. Now, if you think about United States congressmen and women and United States senators, men and women that are out there, would you just in a general broad stroke classify United States senators as creators or contributors? Well, unfortunately, in politics, most politicians that are senators actually are very wealthy now, and congressmen and so forth. And I can get into 1,000 reasons why I think that shouldn't be that way. But to stay on this point is that, of course, they pass those laws because who does that law benefit? It literally benefits them and their family when these tax brackets and laws are getting pushed through. It benefits them. So of course they want to pass those laws. It benefits their personal family.
That's very interesting. So thanks for dropping all that knowledge bomb. So we're coming towards the end. Can you tell us, based on your whole life experience right now, you've done real estate, you're doing a lot of things with the money, one proud moment that you're really, really proud of that you're going to carry until, the end of your lunch story?
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, that's the easy one for me. Like I said, started at the beginning, money is influence. And I grew up in a very poor family, truth be told. Like I grew up on food stamps and WIC sometimes and ate government cheese and, all this stuff. Very, very middle class, very hardworking mom and dad, very extremely loving family, very close family. The parents I have 3 younger sisters. They put us first in everything, and they were trying to make a better life for us as best as they could. And the proudest moment I ever have in my life is as I made a certain amount of money, I got to the point where I could retire my mom and dad. And I sat down with both of them and retired my mom and dad, both from working way early. They were in their early 50s. They're still, to this day, they're still not at retirement age, but they haven't worked in years and years and years and years. I pay them or I give them money. And, because at the end of the day, I think the greatest asset that anybody has is time. It's the way out. But the most important thing that we all have is the greatest asset is time. And who cares if you have a bunch of money when you die if you don't have any time left over? Who cares if you die with a bunch of money? I'd rather spend time with my family, my parents, my sisters, my wife, all that. That's what's important. So, to me, the proudest moment I have is when money allowed me to influence my mom and dad to retire. I bought them a house. I bought them cars. I bought each of them their own car, their favorite car they've always wanted. And for close to, I guess, coming up in a decade maybe, I've taken care of them. And they don't need me to take care of them, but it's my privilege. It's what I want to do, is to give back to those that I love. So that's probably right now by far my, to be able to retire your mom and dad when you're like 30 something years old is pretty freaking crazy. I don't think, starting from nothing is pretty crazy, so that's my proudest moment, man.
That's awesome. That's proud of you as a friend, right? So why don't you tell our audience how to get hold of you and a blurb about your show?
Yeah, for sure. If you want to follow me, you can go to my name, my website. It's just my name, Andrew Cordle. That's CORD as in David, LE.com, AndrewCordle.com. You can also go to moneyis.com as well, moneyis.com. On Andrew Cordle, this is really all I do is try to get, help people out with understanding the game of money and how it works. Money is a show that I created to help try to get the message out, where I can sit down with people and talk to them about, what money means to them and how the game is played and what their viewpoint on it is. It doesn't really matter if I agree or disagree. I'm just trying to get, for us as a country, for us as a middle class, which is what I grew up in, for us to go and grow our wealth, we have to start having authentic, real conversations about money. And until we have authentic conversations about money, and money is no longer a taboo topic that we can't discuss at our family dinners or at nighttime we're sitting with your children. If we can't ever discuss money, then how are your children going to learn about money? Because the school's not going to teach them, college is not going to teach them. It's on you and us to teach, your family, my family about money. So money is trying to be a kind of a show that enables people to learn about money and talk about money with no judgment and wide open for the audience to listen to. So if you guys want to follow me, hit up AndrewCordle.com or moneyis.com, and I'll be happy to. You guys shoot me a message. Be happy to respond to you. Anything I can help you with, be happy to help.
Thanks, Andrew, for being a wealth of knowledge. I'm sure you had tons of value. Thank you very much for coming on.
Thank you, James. Thanks for having me, my friend.
All right, bye.
Hi, this is James Kandasamy. Thank you for listening to this podcast. I appreciate you. I know I provide a lot of value through this podcast, and I want you to share it with your friends, with your families, and anybody else that you know that kind of benefit from listening to this kind of content. Go and share it through Facebook, through LinkedIn, through Twitter, through Instagram, or any other channels that you want to share it, because sharing is caring. Thank you. Let's go on with the show.
That's it for this episode. If you'd like to learn even more, check out James's free audiobook. It's the audio version of his best-selling book on passive investing. You can get the audiobook completely free, along with other valuable resources, by visiting www.achieveinvestmentgroup.com/free audiobook. Also, be sure to join our Facebook group too. To find it, just do a Facebook search for Multifamily Investors Group. Thanks for listening. Join us again for another episode next week. See you then.